For those of you that may not know me, my name is Austin. I lead the sales team here at Vital Storm. I've been here now for a little over 4.5 years, and Josh has been with Vital Storm since the beginning, 10
That's
years
right.
now. Josh is one of the founders, and so the single reason we're here today, as a new year approaches. The last couple of webinars, you've probably heard us say we're skewing these to make sure that you guys are maximizing the potential that you could possibly get out of your marketing campaigns. Because across every office, across the nation, everyone's having some form of fashion conversation that revolves around marketing.
That's
And,
right.
and it's probably, are we getting the most for our money, or is this being maximized to its fullest potential?
Yeah.
Are we getting enough leads? Are they quality leads? Are costs where they should be at? And so on and so forth. And so again, that's why we're here today. Because again, we've been here 10 years. We want to offer a decade's worth of insights, information, knowledge into ebbs and flows of marketing seasons, breaking down different components of your campaigns. And again, as we get closer to 2021, I think what we're like 12 days away now,
Yeah.
that your
Wow.
campaigns are running full speed as we hit January 1. So as we move through this webinar, we've got a couple different topics that we'll cover that goes into breaking down your PPC campaign when things just simply aren't working out. We've all been there. And so if you start to see some things, realize, man, I don't have some of these things, and I need to make sure that these are implemented in my campaign in 2021. Maybe a change might be necessary, maybe not, but you feel free to still schedule some time with us. You'll see all of our information at the end of this, and we'd love to at least try and help you guys out. So again, thanks for joining us today. Josh, I'll kick things over to you before we jump in.
Absolutely. So, like Austin said, I'm one of the founders here at Vital Storm, and we talk to home service companies all the time. It's what we do. We must know hundreds of home service companies from all different sizes, and I say hundreds. It's probably closer to 1,000 or so. Just after a decade of being in this space, you meet a lot of people, and it's interesting. No matter the size of the company, no matter whether you're a 1 truck operation or a 100 truck operation, we've met them all. You have different problems, but depending on what end of the spectrum you're on. But there's a lot of similar problems. There's a lot of similar challenges and obstacles, and especially in the world of digital marketing. And so that's our perspective. That's where we come from. And one of the things that we touch the most is PPC. We hear a lot of questions about PPC, and most of the feelings out there about PPC is things are broken. Things aren't working. And so I'm excited about us having this talk today. I think it's going to be super helpful for many of you who are watching. So like Austin said, I'm one of the founders here, and I couldn't be more pleased and happy to be on this call, ending the last webinar of the year with you all. So let's get out of 2020. Austin, I'm going to kick it back to you, man.
Perfect. No, I agree with that last statement there. 2020 is almost over. All right, so perfect. So the first topic that we'll cover that goes into breaking down those PPC campaigns is understanding what can possibly go wrong within your PPC campaign. If you don't know what to look for, how do you know if it's working, or how do you know if things are right or wrong?
It's important to understand what's going wrong, because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's why we see that cute little baby sitting there. How many times have you just gone and thrown something away because it wasn't working, and you threw some good stuff out with it? And so the mature, responsible thing to do, put your due diligence in and figure out what's not working. PPC, it's a super complex thing, but it can be handled with simplicity if you've got the right outlook and if you've got the right team with you. So you certainly don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's figure out exactly what's causing the pain, and what let's examine the symptoms, and then let's track it down and figure out where the issue is, because there's going to be 1 or 2 issues that once they're resolved, things start to improve and you get the most out of your paid search campaign. We did a recent webinar on how to get the most out of your PPC marketing agency, whoever that partner is you're using. And it's because those guys will help you find those pain points. Right, Austin?
Right. No, absolutely. And you even mentioned one of those pain points as PPC is complex. there's just so many factors to running that campaign that, this is the first point, is to understanding what can go wrong. Is it's hard to understand what can go wrong because there's so many things that go into it.
Exactly. So, we look for things to be simple in our life, and we don't want complicated. Complicated is never fun. And sometimes it can feel really overwhelming when you're in a paid search account or you're discussing getting started with PPC and you're not sure where to start. There are many, many factors to running a successful campaign. And it's like this, this mixed master superhighway, things flying around. There are like I said, many factors. We need to start identifying those factors, though. And once we get a handle on those, we start to categorize and put things in buckets. Now we can see the landscape and start to recognize, okay, what do I need to be working on here and there? So a lot of outside factors come into play with your paid search account, your paid search campaigns. And, again, those being outside factors may not be your fault. It may not be your agency's fault. It may not be the person you've hired on your team to run the paid search accounts fault. There are outside factors. Now, how do you know you have the right person? Well, they can see those outside factors, they can understand them, and they can plan around them or power through them. And one of the biggest outside factors when it comes to home services, Austin, I'm going to kick it back to you. You reveal that to us on this one.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest one. I think that we're all most aware of is the seasonality changes in the home service industry.
Yeah. And so just some quick tips on the seasonality issue and how to navigate that. If you're taking notes, write these things down. It's important to have playbooks for each season. And what I mean by that is understanding what success looks like in that season and understanding how you're going to go about that success. Now, we have another recent webinar where we talked about planning a strategy and then building a game plan to navigate and walk through your paid search marketing strategy over the year. Outside factors come into play here, and one of those is the seasonality. And if you understand the seasonality of your business, which you probably do because you've been running this business for quite some time, then you understand what the goals and the objectives and the milestones are for each one of those seasons. And setting out to accomplish those goals is really important. So you need to know what success looks like in each one of those seasons. So build it into your playbook. A playbook is something as simple as understanding what your offers are going to be over that period of time, understanding if you're going to be aggressive in your bidding and your budgets across that time. And the plays that you run within those seasons have to do with, is this going to be for all of our HVAC guys who really suffer from volatility across the year? In the shoulder season, am I going to be trying to maximize my cost per lead, or am I trying to maximize volume? And it's different for each company. You might want to keep the trucks rolling on the road to keep those technicians busy so that they're not off looking for work somewhere else and you lose them when you really need them maybe a month later or 2 months later down the road. And so that can adjust even your marketing strategy. So having a playbook that falls in line with the seasonality is super important. Having those campaigns tailored to those seasons is really important. Obviously, you don't want to be running furnace offers when it's really, really hot outside and everybody's outside barbecuing. So you want to have those campaigns tailored to those seasons, and you want to have offers that match those seasons. And another, benefit to updating your offers seasonally is it keeps those offers changing. And sometimes those offers grow stale in the market. They see a new offer, and it's just more relevant, and it pulls your ads out to the front as a relevant offering for that person and what they need. You got to think about their mindset when they're searching. They've got a problem. They're upset. Things are a mess in their life until they get the air back, till they get the plumbing back, till they get the electrical issues worked out. And so we want to not only be there, but we also want to make sure it's as relevant as possible. And so that seasonality is going to have a huge impact. That's one of the major outside factors of running a paid search campaign.
Yeah, and the offers and the relevancy, leads perfectly into the next outside factors, and that's competition. There's always new businesses coming into the market. I think we're all aware of that. But also other people are looking at what you're doing and they're trying to one up
That's
you.
right.
They want to be the best. And so this is another big outside factor into making sure your campaign's always working.
When you're all bidding for the same space, the same real estate on the search engine, or you're bidding on the same keywords, or you're targeting the same area, the winner is the one who can just be more efficient. Just beat them with efficiency. An outside factor with seasonality is, like Austin said, the competition. And so they can come in and they can really disrupt your market. They can start bidding up on the same terms you're bidding on, and it starts increasing your cost per click. Just being able to see that and forecast where that's going to go when that happens is super important. Now, again, if you remember back on that slide with the cars and the highway and everything, it can just be overwhelming and super complex, and things are flying around. But if we just start looking at each thing right now, we're talking about these outside factors, and let's divide them up into these buckets: seasonality, and now competition. We'll get into another one here in just a minute, but start to divide and conquer. And if you can understand and watch what your competitors are doing and try to pivot, that's going to be super, super, super helpful for you. You want to make sure your campaigns fit your service area, right, Austin?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Tighten up
Um,
that geo target, right?
yeah, you want to make
Yeah,
sure that you're not just having like a blanket campaign for everyone in
yeah.
your search. You want to have individualized local campaigns that are marketing to each and every specific area that you're wanting to run your ads in.
It's exactly right. And then make sure you're differentiating between you and those competitors, or that one competitor. Are you different? Do you look different in the market just from a search? Because you have control over what those search ads look like. And there's things like site links and everything that you can build into it, and ad extensions. What does your ad look like, and what message is it sending? Those are the critical points to be thinking about. So divide and conquer. Let's figure out the seasonality piece. Let's figure out the competition piece, and make sure that you have competitive offers and call to action. And then there's one more outside factor, Austin.
Yeah, and it's the crazy one, and we hope it never happens again. But it's 2020, so obviously the pandemic has thrown a curveball in. How a lot of businesses operate, especially the home service industry,
Yeah.
having unwanted people in your home.
There's been so many different waves of concern that we've observed with the pandemic. At first, it was confusion, and who's open, who's not open. Are these businesses able to run? And so we were advising home service companies to quickly go and provide messaging, either on their website and or on their ads themselves. We are open. We're open for business. We're an essential business. And then we pivoted and went further and said, okay, now that everyone knows you're open, you need to be reassuring them of the safety measures you're taking. And then from there, it moved on to, as the story evolved, it moved on to other things. And then there was a period of time where we felt like we could get back to advertising, things, and not feeling like it's too soon, to put those offers in front of people, because we want to be sensitive to their needs in the pandemic. And so the moral of the story here is, we need to also be prepared when things like this happen, because we may not have been aware of this particular outside factor until this year, but everyone has been impacted by COVID. Every business has been impacted by COVID. Thankfully, in the home services, you guys are essential services, and you were able to stay open and stay in business. Now, I know you've had to change your operation a bit. You've had to adopt new practices from hygiene to other safety measures. And I'm proud of the home service industry for responding quickly and keeping their people on the road. But that's also important to consider in a marketing campaign, is that we need to be prepared to take fast action on our messaging. That's the key takeaway here. That outside factor of pandemic, if there is ever this happening again, which we hope and pray we never walk through something like this again. But if it happens, We need to be mindful of the messaging and be quick to make adjustments in our messaging. We need the appropriate messaging for each one of these outside factors, especially something like the pandemic.
Right. No, absolutely. And so, again, just a quick recap again on this first topic on understanding what can go wrong within your campaign. Obviously that's the first step. And so again, have that dedicated person like Josh was saying, because PPC is so complex. There's so many different factors that go into it. But then there's also all these outside factors that can compete with what you're trying to do as well.
Yes.
So now we kind of covered step one. Now step two is we've identified where things can go wrong, but now how are we going to pinpoint that exact problem? And that's step two. And so there's a few things that we want to highlight that you can make sure that you check, make sure that you're getting the best results on, because ultimately these will help you get the best results in your PPC campaign. And step one here is check the click to call ratio on your accounts.
Absolutely. So, when, like Austin's saying, we want to pinpoint the exact issue. That involves tracing our steps, right? And like you said, Austin, that very first step here is we want to check the click to call ratio. Click to call ratio is something that, you may not have heard of. It's just a term we throw around, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The clicks to call, like how many calls am I getting per click? We advise people, you really want to see 3 clicks for every call, or 1 call for every 3 clicks. That's another way of saying it. If you're seeing 10, 15, 20 clicks to a call, there's an issue, right? And so we want to get in and we want to eliminate any potential issues. Most likely that's a messaging or some sort of landing page issue, right? So on the landing page, those issues could be technical, right, Austin?
Yep. Yeah, it could just be something as silly as maybe the phone number is not displaying right, or maybe it's not clickable, and people get frustrated. I mean, we just live in a time with little patience.
You're right. And sometimes people are even forgetting, or advertisers are even forgetting, to still make your content mobile friendly. And so sometimes there's an issue, like you said, that you can't see the phone number on the mobile device because it's maybe, cut off or not even appearing. There could be even deeper technical issues like 404 errors, where those pages they're not there. They're not loading. They're not showing up, or they're just taking way too long to load. So if you feel like there's a breakdown in your campaign, you want to go and understand where the issues are. So let's trace our steps. That first step, let's look at click to call ratio. You can talk to whoever's managing your paid search right now. If it's yourself or someone on your team, or you have an agency, ask them, what's our click to call ratio? And if they don't have that handy, just have them do the math. How many clicks did they get? How many calls did they get? And we want to see a 3 to 1 is really what we advise. Anything higher than that is you're going to see that there could be issues. Start with the landing pages, and then maybe there's a content issue itself where you're sending the wrong message to the people that have clicked on the ad. They're now on the landing page, and they're trying to figure out if you do what they need. And so there could be some misunderstanding there. Maybe the content's not written in the proper way. Maybe it's missing some really important pieces, and maybe there's no strong call to action. We need to have a strong call to action, and sometimes offers help with that call to action. Even things like call now, or providing multiple ways for people to contact you, not just phone, but also email or forms. Even nowadays, texting. I remember when texting to set up an appointment seemed to be sort of years ago, like people are really going to use this. They absolutely are using it. Texting to get in touch with a plumber just makes it that much easier.
Yep. Yeah. No. Absolutely. And and the same thing, kind of like kind of off topic, but making sure your voice search optimized. That's another thing that you'll hear in previous webinars, because people think people aren't going to ask Siri or Alexa to find me a local plumber or HVAC technician, but they absolutely will as we become more accustomed to this. And so that's kind of a bonus tip for you guys to write down today is make sure that you guys are starting to mobile optimize and for voice search as well.
Austin, just let me interject here. There's tons of information, long discussion to have on that. And so if you're here now and that's interesting to you, definitely write it down And send us a note later. We would love to connect with you and talk to you about some of these specific things, but especially even optimizing for voice search. All right, back to you, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was just going to jump into the second thing to check here. After you've checked that click to call ratio, make sure you also check your click through rate as well. That's another important factor when it comes to your PPC campaign.
Right. So the click through ratio, that's the ratio of how often people are, when they're seeing the ads and then clicking through to it. So in that first thing to check, we may have discovered a breakdown on the landing page, whether it's technical or content, but something's preventing them from calling. Well, if that number or that, that metric is fine, it's where it needs to be, then we're going to trace our steps back even further. And now here we are, like Asta said, with click-through rate. So now there's an impression, people are seeing it, and then they're clicking through to it. We advise a 3% click-through rate. That's super, super high. It's extremely high. If you don't understand click-through rates, you might think that 3% is low, but actually a 3% click-through rate is extremely high. But we can see it in the home services because of the direct response nature of the advertising that you do in home services. People have a need, they search, and they click and they call. And so we will see higher click-through rates, but we advise that click-through rate be around 3% or more. We've seen it even higher than that, and that's fantastic. That's a high five with those people that are executing and making that happen. But we also see it very low when people come to us to talk to us about their campaigns. That's one of the things we look at, their click-through rate. And when it's around 1%, even 2%, we advise them, there are some changes that need to be made. So how do you influence or impact the click-through rate? Well, there probably is an ad text issue. So these are search ads and people are reading them. And there could be an issue that they're seeing in those ads that's preventing them from clicking. It could be that the ads don't have a strong enough call to action in themselves. It could be that they're being overshadowed by other competitors. They just have more compelling text ads that are getting all the clicks and getting all the attention. There could be a whole host of things. It could be that your ads are really just outdated and irrelevant. We advise that you have very relevant and seasonal offers and ads. And so if, as it's getting colder around the country, especially now, especially up in Northeast, we've had this first snowstorm come through. It wouldn't be very relevant to run ads that seem to be working more in a warmer climate, like talking about air conditioning repair, or maybe something that has to do with for plumbers, for sprinkler systems, or even pool repair stuff. You need to make sure you have the most relevant ads showing in those seasons. And so if you're experiencing a low click-through rate, it's most likely that your ads aren't compelling enough. And so if you start tweaking the ad text, you could start to see an impact and see some improvement, right, Austin?
Right. Yeah. And it could also be something as simple as if you're not showing up enough, that could be another thing to check. If you're not getting enough clicks, there could be something wrong when it comes to the impressions. You could just simply, like I said earlier, just not be showing up when people are searching for you.
Yeah, I mean, if your impressions aren't there, then your ads aren't showing up. And so why would my ads not be showing up? Well, there could be two really obvious things that, well, they're obvious to us because we do this all the time, right, Austin? But they might not be
Right.
obvious to those who are on today. But one of the most obvious ones should be targeting. Am I targeting the wrong area? And targeting can also be part of the keyword issue. Do I have the wrong keywords, or am I targeting the wrong area? And then the second most obvious should also be runtime, because you can set when your ads show and don't show. And so it could be that you're just showing your ads at the wrong time, or you're not showing them for enough part of the day or the day part. And so if you want to run your ads all afternoon, maybe you need to spread it into the evening, or start it earlier in the morning. Some people we talk to, they run their ads 24/7, 365. And that works for them. And it worked. And there's no reason why you shouldn't. There's no written rule or unwritten rule about runtime. It's unique to you, and it's unique to your industry. And most and even further, it's unique to your specific operation and your budget and how you manage things. Sometimes we'll find ourselves suggesting a shorter runtime because we have a limited budget and we want to maximize that budget as much as possible. So we will do some research and find out what part of the day are the most relevant clicks happening. And so one thing to keep in mind, if that's your scenario, is don't run your ads overnight, because most likely those people aren't going to call you right away. And so they could write it down or come back to it later, but sometimes those things slip through and they get forgotten.
Yeah.
So again, picking the part of the day to run might make the impact you need. Again, if you're not getting enough impressions, you start opening it up. We've suggested that people do, add a couple hours to the beginning, add a couple hours at the end of the day, and they start to see those impressions pick up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was even going to say, a lot of people, they tend to think, well, hey, I'm just going to run my ads from 8 to 5. That's when we're open.
Yeah, exactly.
But we always suggest, or I suggest sometimes to people, and I'm not even the specialist on the PPC side of things. I try 30 minutes before you open and 30 minutes after you close, because most other people work from 8 to 5 too. So they might be doing their job duties during the day, and so they might wake up and notice they have the problems. They do a quick search in the morning, or they're going to do a quick search in the afternoon. So you might find those searchers, even if you expand your windows just by 30 minutes on each side, that might help as well.
Yeah.
The last thing to check before we move into the third topic, and I know we're pushing the time here with you guys, so we appreciate you guys staying around with us. This is probably my favorite slide here, but things to check. Number 4 is check your keywords.
That's exactly right, because you want to make sure that you're again, like we said earlier, targeting those proper searches. There are opportunities that you could be missing by not having the right keywords built into your campaign. And on the flip side of that is there are also negative keywords that you don't want to show up for. And so the reason why we got this ridiculous looking poodle, and if you have a dog like this, I'm sorry for calling it ridiculous, but hey, I think most of us will agree this is kind of silly. But we always want to be grooming those keyword lists. I mean, just like that dog gets groomed probably every single day. We want to groom the keyword list on a regular basis. We want to be adding negative keywords. We want to be adding new keywords, but also dropping off other keywords that aren't as efficient that we need them to be. Just because you are a plumber in Phoenix, it might not mean that you should be targeting that keyword. There's a whole list of reasons why you should and shouldn't target a keyword. You need to work that out with either if you're managing those campaigns yourself, or you've got someone on your team, or you have another outside agency or partner that's doing it. The keyword research is really important, because you find those keywords, not just the ones that have the most traffic, but also the ones that will bring the most bang for the buck, right? Those super efficient keywords need to be the ones you highlight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so again, just a quick recap on how to pinpoint these problems. Check that click to call ratio, check the click-through rate, check your impressions, and groom that keyword list just as often as this poodle right here gets groomed to stay looking pretty day after day. So
That's
third
funny.
topic here, as we wrap up and wind down, now we're looking into the future proof those campaigns, because this really emphasizes the importance of staying on top of things. You don't ever want your partner or your provider or your in-house marketing team, or even yourself, to fall asleep at the wheel, essentially, when it comes to your marketing campaigns.
That's exactly right. So the way to future-proof it is you don't fall asleep at the wheel. Like this guy here, just said sleep on the job. Most of you are probably not managing your own PPC campaigns, or if you are, it's probably not your primary function. You probably have other responsibilities. And so it's easy to want to get it set up and just let it run because you're focused on other things. It's too important, and it can cost you too much money. And again, when that happens, I see so many people throw the baby out with the bathwater. There we go, full circle. And it might just be that the thing's been put on autopilot, or someone's fallen asleep on it. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here, but sometimes that's just kind of a common thing that happens in business, but especially in paid search, because you set the campaigns up and they just kind of do their thing. And after a few weeks or months of seeing it, you see patterns, you kind of go to sleep, but then all of a sudden, bam, the season changes, or there's a pandemic, or there's some sort of outside factor. So you don't want to fall asleep on the job. And so the best way is to have a dedicated person that
Yep.
is that's their primary focus, right, Austin?
Yeah, no, and there's a couple things to help avoid from falling asleep at the wheel, and having a dedicated person is one of them. This is something that you'll hear us say every webinar, every discussion we have is if you don't have somebody in house to take care of this, delegate it. Your marketing's important, your brand's important. You want somebody that's always going to stay on top of it to make sure that you're maximizing those results. Again, that we keep coming back to that word, but you want to make sure you're getting the best results for the investment that you're putting in to marketing, and that leads perfectly into if you don't have the dedicated person at home or at your home office, don't be afraid to hire an expert because almost you can't afford not to do that.
Yeah. Again, like what you invest in, you'll see a return. And so if you want to make the proper investment in your marketing, and especially paid search, digital marketing, then invest in an expert, and then you can hold them accountable. And so a lot of people want to figure out how they can bring it in house. We've seen that. We've actually had conversations. We've even coached people through it. And we don't really prefer that, because it takes that expert out of their expert environment and puts them in your environment. Now, you have an amazing environment. You probably have an incredible culture, but your culture probably isn't geared towards innovation in paid search. Just being honest.
Right.
So we really recommend that if you have a sizable budget, if you're spending more than $3, $4, $5,000, especially if you're spending $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a month on paid search, have an expert, a dedicated person that is also the expert in the field. Don't be afraid of putting the investment in there, because you'll see the return, but you also get to hold that agency accountable. And it's great to have them competing to keep the business, because most agency lifespans are about 3 years. So the average advertiser like you sticks with their agency like about 3 years, and so they're working hard to change that, and they want to have long-term relationships. So there's a lot of other benefits there in having the expert on the team.
Yeah, and I might have jumped the gun on the click here, but having that expert, maybe your marketing provider, they're able to stay on top of the latest strategies and features of paid search for you. Having the in-person or the in-house person, it could be great for the business, but they're also juggling things, the latest strategies and features of HVAC industry plus marketing, and so they're kind of splitting the time. But having that expert, having that dedicated person always on your account allows them to stay on top of the ever changing and ever growing marketing strategy. It seems like there's something new every day, and these features of paid search, because it's so important to not fall behind. I think that's where you're gonna then have to start at step one from where we started talking about today. What problem am I having, and how do I pinpoint this problem if you're not doing this piece right here that
Yeah,
we're talking about?
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
and then the last step, stay in communication with your marketing expert, whether they're in-house or whether you hire an agency. It's so important to have two-way communication with your marketing partner.
This is probably the number one reason, Austin, why campaigns break down. It's because there's a breakdown in communication. Once that happens, those that railroad, those two rails have to be heading, perfectly parallel in the same direction, so that train can move fast and smooth. And
Yep.
so that needs to happen in your partnerships too. You need to have both people in parallel moving in the same direction, and that's only going to happen through communication. Once the
Yep.
communication starts to wane, expectations start to misalign, and what one calls success, the other might not call success. And so knowing what success looks like is super important, and also knowing when is it not working is also
Yep.
really important. And so that communication is gonna be the big player there. Now here's the thing, it's got to be two-way. Don't just hold your partner or your employee accountable for the communication. You hold yourself accountable for the communication, because they need to hear from you too. You need to be reading the reports. You need to be showing up to the meetings, and you need to be a part of this thing, because it's a two-way relationship. It's a partnership that is only going to work, and you're only going to get the most out of it if you're both, contributing to that partnership. And that number one way is the communication.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think, like you said, these last 2 points, having someone stay on top of the latest trends and staying in communication are the two biggest areas where you see the breakdown. And you have to go all the way to step one, where we started today, and where now you have to understand what's going wrong. When the communication falls apart, or you're falling behind everyone else, then you have to pinpoint that exact problem. And then you have to start over again with future proofing those new campaigns to stay up to date, so you don't have to circle all the way back to step one again and do it all over. So again, that's a quick recap. Again, you guys, thanks for joining us today and on really breaking down those PPC campaigns when things aren't working. Again, understanding what can go wrong, pinpointing that problem, and future proofing those campaigns. So I hope we were able to offer you guys some great insights into what can go wrong, what to look for, how to fix things. Let us know if you guys have any questions. Here's my email. There's my phone number. There's even our website. You can chat with us on there if you don't want to start a direct line of communication just yet.
Yeah.
And plus, there's tons of free resources on there where you don't even have to talk to me. You don't have to talk to Josh. You can request a download, and a PDF is sent to you right away. Of those resources that you're hoping to look at. So we'll open this up for Q&A. There's a little Q&A box on your screen somewhere. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them our way. We'll answer them as we see them come in. And if there's no questions, we'll shut this thing down here in a minute or two. All right, let's see. Let me open up Q&A, see if we've got anything. Nothing just yet.
We might have a shy bunch with this, Austin.
I might start picking on people randomly. Let's just say somebody's name. Send us a question.
Or you were just so darn informative that there's absolutely no question left.
That's the goal. That is the goal. That's why we want people to keep coming back, and that's why these are so great. I mean, this is something, we started this year, and for those of you who are still hanging on, it's going to be something we keep on doing next year. We'll keep doing these webinars. Keep your eyes peeled for maybe even a Vital Storm podcast. It's something we've talked about. I'm going to put Josh's feet to the fire now that I'm saying on a webinar to people. So keep your eyes open for that, because we want to keep offering you guys great resources into the insights that we see in the digital marketing world.
Absolutely. And, I'm excited about bringing in some of our other partners, our other relationships out there that I know most people would know some of those names, whether it's a brand name or an affiliation. We've got some great partnerships out there. I'm not going to throw their names out here right now, just because, it just feels inappropriate to drop the names too soon. But we've got a big year of webinars planned in 2021. And, bringing in all kinds of partners, whether it's from a search engine, if you can imagine who that might be, or another manufacturer that's in your field, whether you're a plumber or air conditioning company, or other marketing managers or CMOs from some of even our partners that we manage accounts for, bringing some of those guys on. We've already got some of that arranged. And so that's going to be exciting. You're going to be able to hear from some really big home service companies that are making doing some really good things in their business and growing, rapidly. It's amazing, Austin. We've seen some of our larger partners grow rapidly through the whole COVID 2020 pandemic, and that's just a testimony of not only them seizing, making the most of the opportunity, making the most of the moment, but also just having great operations. And so there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom we want to share out to guys like those who are watching this right now. So big year planned in 2021.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. So we hope you guys can join us. Hey, I haven't seen any questions come through, so we'll go ahead and shut this meeting down. But again, feel free to contact us if you have questions. We'd love to chat and help out any way we can. Or just feel free to visit our website if you guys aren't in the stage and ready to talk to another provider yet. So thanks again for joining us, Josh. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys in January.
Yeah. Thanks for leading, Austin. I enjoyed
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely. See you guys.
Bye.